pines? Well, down at the roots, they're always producing mushrooms, and swillus mushrooms or slippery jacks are a nice mushroom that you can eat, but most people are really hot on Boletus edulis, the porcini, and those are both fruit of the pine tree. In addition to that, there is another mushroom, the red one with the white spots, and this one is a little more notorious. This is probably the most notorious mushroom with all kinds of lore to it in the world, and this one grows on the roots of pine trees. And when you see this one, consider it to be like a stoplight. You see that, you might be driving along the road past some pine trees and you'll see that and you go, oh my gosh, there must be some porcinis there. So when you go dig around in the pine needles and you find a lumpy, bumpy rump in the pine needles, you can reach down in and you'll probably find a porcini. If you see those, that catches your eye, then you'll find the other ones. And so this is like an indicator species because they both grow together under the same pine trees. So that's the fruit of a pine tree. The chanterelles are the fruit of an oak tree. In addition to the fruit of the oak tree, we have candy caps. That's one of the most famous ones. I didn't actually bring the dried candy caps, but soon enough you will be experiencing that. If you go down to Far West, they are selling those dried, and you can get them out of the jars, but they're all over the hill country pretty soon. We're a little, like Eric says, we're a little early on the season locally. So if you were to go up with Mendocino or someplace like that, you are finding chanterelles, and we're getting a lot of them in. Are you able to hear me in the back? Was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have Mendocino.
Oh, okay. Mendocino, it's wonderful. So the other two methods is parasitic, and the parasitic ones. How many of you have heard of huitlacoche? Huitlacoche is a gourmet mushroom that is parasite on corn. Well, it has two life cycles. Part of the life cycle is a saprobic mushroom living in rich compost and so forth in the ground, and then it parasitizes the corn on the corn silk. After that, but it's a gourmet mushroom, but it is a parasite. If you grow corn, you can grow that mushroom parasitic on your corn. If you're not successful in growing the mushroom, at least you have sweet corn. So that's so we grow the corn in our class, but it really likes warm weather, and in the hills of Oakland it's not quite warm enough for us to get. We have grown huitlacoche there, but it likes it like hot. So where it's uncomfortable for you to sleep at night without air conditioning, that's good melon weather and good huitlacoche weather. So another famous mushroom, which David is going to be talking about some tonight, is the cordyceps mushroom, which is a parasite. It's parasitic on insects, and you may have seen the famous YouTube videos from what's the famous guy from England that does the BBC talks and so forth. David Attenborough, yes. If you look online, you'll see the thing where it invades the body of an ant and converts it takes over its nervous system and gets it to climb to the top of the highest place in the jungle, and then it clings to the leaf and clamps on its jaws, and the mushroom erupts out of its brain and makes its spores and they go in the air. He grows these and he's got them encapsulated so you can eat them, and they're very healthy for you. So, I'll pass around this jar. I want them to be in here when they come back up. I asked for these I got in Chinatown when they were $14,000 a pound. So I asked them to give me $10 worth, and it didn't register on their scale. So this is $20 worth. So it's very, very lightweight. But anyway, if you want to pass that around, you can take a look at these. They are actually little dried caterpillars with their brains erupted out with a little mushroom on the end of it. Way. So. I'm going to pass around a mushroom right now so that you can see. Actually, let me pass around a more convenient one. First, yeah, that's a good one. Okay. This is Namiko. Everybody knows Namiko, right? Well, maybe you do. Anyway, Namiko is. How many of you know button mushrooms? You've seen them in Safeway. Everybody's seen. Yes or no? Have you seen button mushrooms? Okay. Yes. All right, how many of you know oysters? You might have seen them in Safeway too. Okay, well, these guys grow oysters. Eric cooks them. Oysters are pretty common, everyday mushroom. Well, getting a little bit more esoteric, Namikos are a nice little mushroom, and you might see these in some stores. Certainly you would see them in the more gourmet offerings, but you might not see them in Safeway. So this right here, if you look carefully at it, This jar contains the body of the mushroom. The living being of the mushroom, the blob that is the mushroom, is in here. This is the apple tree, and these are the apples. So it's producing fruit over here. When you grow the mushroom, it can be very easy to grow the mushroom, but to get it to fruit, that's a whole different matter. So growing the mushroom and fruiting the mushroom is two different things. You can grow an apple tree. You can find a whole orchard full of apple trees, but if you don't have enough nitrogen and phosphorus and freezing temperatures that are low enough to chill for the blooming of the fruit, and then have the bees out when it's not raining so that they can pollinate it, and blah, 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 you might get apples on your apple tree. Well, the apple tree is down here, growing as a white mycelial fuzz, and this up here is the fruit. And there's not exactly an analogy with this and the mushroom and the apple tree, because if you were to take any piece of this blob, you can transfer it and grow it on more dead stuff, like more sawdust or more wood chips or whatever it likes. This portion, you can crack open the mushroom itself, yank out a little bit of tiny tissue in there, and grow more mycelium off of it. That you can't do with an apple, right? You could take an apple tree and put it through a chipper. The similar thing would be take an apple tree and put it through a chipper and then spread it out in the field, and every little piece of chip grows into a new apple tree. Or take the apple itself and do the same thing. Well, this thing here produces spores like an apple produces seeds, but the tissue of the apple itself, you pluck a little pulp out, you won't be able to grow an apple tree from that, but you could grow a mushroom from the mushroom tissue. Does everyone understand that? There's an analogy, but it's not exactly the same. So I'm going to pass this around. This is Namiko mushroom. And to give you a little bit better idea, let's take the shiitake block and pass that one around, because you can actually hold on to the body of the mushroom there. That is the body of the mushroom exposed in the bag. It makes a skin, a leathery skin around the blob of the mushroom, and then it produces fruit out of that, the flowering or the fruiting body. And we talk about it in general terms as part of the lore. It may not be exactly technically correct, but we can say the mushrooms bloom, the mushrooms fruit, because they're both blooms and fruit at the same time in the mushroom kingdom. So it is the kingdom of the blobs. We are different. Mushrooms are different. They're much more similar to animals than they are to plants. They don't have chlorophyll. They sneak around underground. They go invade tree roots. They do all kinds of things like a tentacled blobby organism would do them. So it's the kingdom of the blobs. That's basically the introduction, I think. Is there any particular questions anyone has, or any fleshing out you guys want to mention?
Ken, do you want to have your trivia question? Do you want to ask your trivia question? And we'll just take like the first hand that goes up and the first right answer.
I haven't asked it yet. Let's see, what would be a good trivia question?
Are you looking at me?
I'm on the spot to try to think of a good trivia question. So let's see. What is the largest mushroom in the world?
Yes, sir.
The one that grows between trees and forest in the northern United States or something up there?
That's pretty.
In the red.
Do we have anyone who fleshes it out better than that, or?
No? Yes, in the back.
It was in Michigan.
Truffle.
Huh?
Truffle.
Well, I think so far he's got the closest right answer. You got anything better?
Cauliflower
mushroom. What kind? Do you know what kind of mushroom it was?
I wouldn't know its species.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, he pretty much answered it. Basically, we have to do an explanation of this, and that is that the mushroom itself, the body of the mushroom, is not necessarily the biggest. Nobody knows what the biggest organism in the world is. If you go into Colorado, you can find aspen trees that might be 10,000 years old. One tree grew out with roots and spread and spread and spread, and those in the center decayed and died off. So they can take the genetics of one aspen tree on one side of Colorado State and go to the other side of Colorado State and find exactly the same genetics, because one tree grew and branched and rooted and spread all over the place, similar to what a mycelium does. And so your mycelium might be in Oregon. I think the largest one they found is a honey mushroom. They say the largest, but there's been one in Michigan. There's actually all over the place there's some. And if you were to look at the Bay Area, we have trees all over here, and every oak tree is connected to every other oak tree by the mushroom mycelium connecting the roots. And so you've heard of sudden oak death? Sudden oak death is one of those things that doesn't kill the trees suddenly. The thing that kills the trees suddenly is vineyards and subdivisions and cities intruding. That's sudden oak death. Cut it down. When you cut all those up, you separate every one of those trees from each other because they're connected by the underground mycelial network. So where does one organism leave off and another start? What is one organism? If you need mycelium to live, it's part of your organism. Just like every one of us, you may have heard recently that we have more DNA of bacteria in our bodies than we do of our own DNA. So I guess our winner is the gentleman over there.
Thank you, Ken. Next on my lineup here I have Eric, and we decided that we will do your next dish on the way out.
Exactly.
So if you Eric want to kind of give us kind of an overview of how you got passionate about mushrooms and.
Okay, well, boy, it goes back to, I've been cooking since I was just a little kid. Like, my parents put me up on a step stool when I was 3 and I was making like scrambled eggs. And I've been really into all sorts of types of food. And I'm from New Jersey, and while a lot of people think New Jersey is all cement and chemical waste and all that stuff, just a mere hour south of New Jersey, it's like horse country and woods and all that. So I was running through the woods and would notice mushrooms, but it really didn't take too much note of it until I went to culinary school in Manhattan. And there was a guy out there who used to work for the Central Park. This guy, Steve Brill, he's actually has a cookbook out on like forage wild foods, and he took us on a forage food walk, and we picked, I remember, a couple mushrooms. What I really remember was the wine cap stropharia that I thought was excellent. But soon after that, I moved out here, and I worked in restaurants on the East Coast, and there were restaurants, it was right at the beginning of like the whole, sort of people going to farmers markets and all that. But I never saw any foragers come to restaurants in New Jersey and show off their wares, even though I know now up in my neck of New Jersey, there's plenty of edible species in that neck of the woods. So, we had guys showing up with chanterelles and porcini, and I'm an avid cyclist and runner, so I'd be out mountain biking or cycling. Then, I'd see all these mushrooms, and it's kind of what got me into like putting two and two together. Because well, I could learn about foraging, and that got me into foraging mushrooms. And I remember first time I picked chanterelles, I was running through my trails by Mount Tam, and came across some oaks and saw these little chanterelles. And being that I'd worked with chanterelles enough cooking, I knew exactly what they were, and there was nothing to question. Then what also got me into it was soon after that, sort of joining the SF Mycological Society, and going out on forays with some of those guys and picking up literature and books, and just kind of getting into it. And the cuisine I do at Millennium, it's all vegetarian and vegan cuisine. It's just really a natural to utilize a lot of mushrooms. One, it helps being that I like mushrooms. No question about it. Had my way, almost every dish would be full of mushrooms, and I get into trouble because then we get people that actually don't like mushrooms, which I guess the world can be divided into two types of people. There's that do, there's that don't. If you don't like them, go away. But no, we accommodate that. But really, they really intrigue me, and the flavor profiles are wonderful. They're so, it's sure they are quoted as being meaty, but they're so savory, and really a lot of every mushroom has its own kind of flavor profiles, and there's a and the more of them that I tried, and the more I find some of the different flavors, I find I get inspiration for doing that. Like we were just cooking up some bluets a couple nights ago, and while I didn't have when I cook those things, I always think I want hazelnuts with them because they have this nutty quality that just, especially when they cook the effluvia they throw off, it just reminds me a lot of hazelnuts. As well as so certain other mushrooms always suggest different characteristics, which I utilize when I combine a dish. I don't know where else to go with that, but because there's a lot of things. Just going back to the dishes the little samples I made. And just a little bit for